somebody who didn't raise their hand, would you just quickly check them for a pulse? We all know that this has been, actually for a couple of years now, the theme for Toastmasters, where leaders are made. The one thing that they don't specifically tell you, because that's what Toastmasters as an organization is all about, it's not so much about where leaders are made. We know that's Toastmasters. The question is, how are leaders made? So for the next few minutes, about 40 minutes, we'll be talking a little bit about that. Now I have a confession for you. I love to read. And even in my advanced old age, the books I enjoy most are the books that I read when I was a child. How many of you can relate to that? And, okay, I have to admit, I may look like a suave, sophisticated woman of the world, but there is a certain nerd factor involved. In fact, a confession. It will not happen because I did set my phone to stun, as I hope all of you have done. However, should my phone ring, it would be the Harry Potter theme song. So, all right, a little nerd factor there. I revisit those old friends over and over again, and one of the books I still enjoy is the original Wizard of Oz. How many of you actually read the book? Forget the movie, well, the movie was good, but how many of you actually read the book? The thing that I really loved about the book was the fact that those characters, the Scarecrow, the Tin Woodman, and the Cowardly Lion, looking for brains, heart, and courage, they actually had brains, heart, and courage. What they were lacking was confidence to recognize they had the brains, heart, and courage. Everybody in this room, from the most experienced leaders to the newest leaders, all have the brains, heart, and courage to do the job. I'm going to, I hope, take you to the next level to improve your skills, whatever they may be. So be prepared to go on a little ride with me. Just a little census, by the way. How many of you in this room are going to be experiencing Toastmasters leadership for the first time this term? Who are newbies in the room? Okay, Toastmasters, do we applaud people who step up? So congratulations. And the things that I will be sharing with you, by the way, are not just about Toastmasters. Of course, we learn about leadership in Toastmasters so we can take these skills outside of Toastmasters. So the things I'll be sharing with you today aren't just about being an effective officer. It's about being an effective leader anywhere. Now, the first concept that we want to take a look at is the concept of being a new leader, and we know who you are. So, in order to be a new leader, do you think that takes brains, heart, or courage? What do you think? Yes. I think you got me. The answer is yes. It takes all three. I'm going to be sharing with you the characteristics of what we would refer to as an autocratic leader and a developmental leader. Often, brand new leaders tend to be a little bit more autocratic rather than developmental. Why do you think that is, by the way? Why do you think the newer leaders tend to be perhaps a little bit more my way or the highway kind of people? Yeah, what do you think?
Lack of experience.
Lack of experience? Yep.
Trust.
Couldn't hear you?
Trust.
All right, let me get this out of the way. One too many rock concerts when I was a kid. Okay, now here's the real truth. Driving down the road, iPod, Led Zeppelin, full volume. I can't hear anything anymore. So if you see me do that, I need you to just crank the volume up a little bit. Okay, so what was the answer over here?
Trust.
Trust. Lack of trust. Any other thoughts? I saw, yes, ma'am.
Lack of confidence. Other people can get the job done just as good.
Okay, which goes back to lack of trust. Yeah, I may have confidence in myself. Although interestingly, new members don't really, or new leaders don't have very much confidence in themselves, which is why they tend to rule with an iron fist when they're first starting out. I will never forget my very first business class. The person who instructed that class said, the first time you take on any sort of leadership role, first of all, your personality changes just a little bit. How many of you, if you haven't experienced it yourself, you have noticed it in other people? And he also said these wise words, the world changes as you know it. Because before, all you had to do was show up and do your job. But now you know that if they do a good job, they get the credit, and if they do a poor job, you get the blame. Exactly. So these are the characteristics of an autocratic leader. Says little unless something is wrong. So if you don't hear from me, that's good news. If you do hear from me, yeah. Usually not interested in others' ideas. Decides what information people need. Unfortunately, some people use information as poker chips, and they're not willing to put it out there. Changes demands unexpectedly. Sometimes hard to talk to. Discourages people from taking risks. Sets objectives for subordinates. Personally determines performance standards. You know, I almost hate to ask the question, how many of you have had to interact with somebody just as I described? Keep your hand up if you just thought it was like the most wonderful, fun, cool experience. So one weird person whom I know, and would not have surprised me one bit for him to raise his hand, but nobody enjoys that. So as we become more confident, we become more developmental. And a developmental leader considers ideas that conflict with his or her own. Actually, Roberta mentioned those very concepts in her conflict resolution and team building class. Oh, how many of you were there? And was that like totally cool? Yeah, it's a really good info. Oh, okay, yeah, we can applaud her. She already had some applause, but we can do that again. Allows a reasonable margin for error. You know, Toastmasters. Here's the great thing about Toastmasters. You get to make mistakes. So that you learn something and you don't make those mistakes when you leave Toastmasters. So a good leader recognizes nobody is perfect and people are going to make a mistake. So allows for a reasonable margin of error. Tries to help others learn from their mistakes. Consistently high expectations. More on that in just a short while. Encourages people to reach in new directions. You know, that's not just Toastmasters leaders, that's Toastmasters as an organization, which is wonderful. Helps people understand the objectives of their jobs, allows people to make their own commitments, and sets objectives with people. Okay, the good news about Toastmasters is that it sets some overall objectives for the club, but within the club, you have so many opportunities to work in order to establish the specific goals for your club. Roberta mentioned it when she was club president last year in her club. If you were not in her presentation, she said the goal, the team, the leadership team created the goal of not just achieving the Distinguished Club program, but to multiply that times 3. That was the goal. Pretty darn close, but you have 2 days left, so she's not worried. She needs, I think, 3 more members in order to achieve that goal. I don't recommend that you send any strangers past her house for the next couple of days. Knowing Roberta, she will achieve that goal. Okay, 4 great insights of neat leadership. Not just regular old insights, no indeed, these are 4 great insights of leadership. A couple of these are going to be, for you, common sense. And if you were to be thinking, well, this is just common sense, I would feel obligated to quote Voltaire, who said, common sense is not common. All right, number 1, people behave based on their thoughts. Okay, was that common sense or was that common sense? I didn't lie to you, did I? But it's absolutely true. So if they're thinking positive thoughts, positive things will happen. If they're thinking negative thoughts, negative things will probably happen. And that, by the way, can have an impact on an entire club and an entire office. Number 2, also common sense. Individuality should be valued and explored. Big thumbs up to Roberta. In her presentation, she was talking about the fact that people learn and process differently. And in fact, during the lunch break, somebody was chatting with me saying that was, for her, the number 1 insight that she got from Roberta's presentation. There are some people who are cut to the chase, give me bullet points, and there are other people who need to be given time to process, think it through. You've got to take the time to give them details. So when you understand the members of your team, you are really actively working to create a good, strong team. That's not just Toastmasters, folks. That's in any team that you ever are involved with. Number 3, people treated responsibly take responsibility. We're going to come off of the screen for just a minute, and I want to share with you a study that somebody conducted a long time ago. I'm thinking it was probably in about the 50s. Are any of you familiar with the Pygmalion principle? Any of you heard of the Pygmalion principle? A few of you have. Now this was so long ago, now nobody's going to do it. I was hoping somebody would say, how long ago? Okay, thank you very much. I feel so much better now. This was before anybody ever thought of testing kids before they went into first grade. Back in my day, back when I was a small child, if you went into first grade and you knew your numbers 1 through 10, you were a genius. And if you knew your alphabet, superstar. Nobody expected you to know anything. You started learning in first grade. Kindergarten was entirely to get you out of your parents' hair. That was it. Well, this particular year, this was in Manhattan, by the way, a group of people went to a teacher and said, we did something different this year, and we thought we would share this with you because it involved the kids that are in your class. We tested them and made some determinations about the likelihood of their success, and we thought, since they were your kids, it would be useful information for you. So you see this list of kids over here? These lists of kids are almost certainly going to be your top achievers. Very high test scores, bright kids. Be on the lookout. These are going to be the smartest and best children in your class. Now you see this list of kids over here. The opposite result. These were the kids with the lowest test scores. These are probably going to be your problem children, literally. So just thought it would be fair to let you know. Time passed. The year was over. They took a look at the final grades of the children. And sure enough, the kids over here, the top kids in the class. And sure enough, the kids over here came in at the bottom of the class. Now some of you might be saying, well, what's the big deal? Well, here's the big deal, folks. They didn't test any of the children. They picked the names entirely at random. If they had tested the kids, what they would have found almost certainly was that some of the kids over here would have wound up on this list, and some of the kids over here would have wound up on this list. Okay? So why were the results the results? And what they discovered was that it had to do 100% with how the teacher interacted with the children. So here's a kid over here with a low test score. That's not you. You're a smart little kid. I know you're going to be able to bring that grade up. Keep working at it. I'll help you. And then a kid over here, low test score. There, honey. I know you did the best you could. Folks, it is a fact. People will rise or fall to your level of expectations. So what are you doing as a leader in Toastmasters or outside of Toastmasters? You set the bar. If you set the bar really low, okay, if Roberta had said, all right, here's our goal, we're going to be distinguished. The club would have been distinguished. But if it wasn't, let's be distinguished, let's do it 3 times more than we need to be. And they're 3 people short. And it was because of that vision. People treated responsibly, take responsibility. She gave the responsibility to the club, and they achieved incredible things. Number 4, and I think this is huge for most people. Lack of motivation often reflects discouragement. It is really easy if you see somebody who isn't producing, who's not willing to participate. They were gung-ho just a year ago, and now we can't get them to do anything. It's really easy to blame the other person, isn't it? They're just not motivated. Well, okay, they may not be motivated, but the question is, why not? Whether it be in Toastmasters or whether it be in the real world and you are the leader and you have somebody who for some reason doesn't seem to be motivated, the first question you need to ask yourself is it possible that I, as a leader in some way, am contributing to that? Okay, the way I choose to interact with them, is that having an impact on their motivation? Now, if you can honestly answer, no, I do not think that I am, in fact, responsible in any way, then you go to the person and you try to find out from them, hey, what's going on? You were a valuable member 2 years ago, and I'm just seeing a difference, and I'm concerned. Is there something that's happened? And is there anything that I can help you with to get you to where you were before? Lack of motivation often reflects discouragement. Next point, no micromanaging. Does that require brains, heart, or courage? The answer is? Yes. Oh gosh, you guys know. Yes, absolutely. Now I'm going to share something with you that I learned from a guy. Has anybody in this room ever heard of this guy? What's his name? Dr. Stephen Covey. Anybody ever heard of that? Yeah. Now he did not say these exact words. I'm paraphrasing. But for me, it was the aha light bulb, bingo, this is whopper. Here's what he said. Again, I'm paraphrasing. He said, when we feel we're in control, we're happy. When we feel we're not in control, we are not happy. More common sense, ladies. When we feel we're in control, we're happy. When we feel we're not in control, we are not happy. So let's talk about micromanagement for just a moment. Can everybody see this picture? And if not, shall I describe it for you? We have a pretty happy looking puppy, am I right? And that puppy happens to be sitting on a cat. Oh, that's what it is. Okay, so I think I gave away the answer to this question. Who in this picture do you think is in fact happy? And who in this picture do you think in fact may not be quite so happy? That would be the cat, you bet. And when the puppy stands up, what do you think may happen? And then who may be unhappy at that point? Now this to me is a true reflection of micromanagement. Okay, the puppy is as happy as can be. Yippee. I'm getting my way. I'm telling everybody what to do. They're telling me, they're doing what I'm telling them to do. Does that ever work? Which is actually kind of a trick question. Because the answer is yes, but on the short term. Folks, people are always looking to have some kind of control. So if I have no control over the job I do, where am I going to find my control? Okay, I have control over the quality of the job I do. I may have no control over the job I do, but I have control over what time I bother to show up for the meeting or at work. I may have no control over the job I do, but I have control over whether or not I show up at all, or I maintain my membership in a Toastmasters club. People are always looking for control, folks. So think about what you are doing as a leader. Are you leading by allowing people to learn the lesson, or are you telling people what to do and expecting them to do what you tell them? I suspect there's some people in this room who've been in Toastmasters for a while who may have learned this lesson the hard way. Folks, you can't make people do, well, that's not true. You can make them do things on the short term, but ultimately there will be some negative consequences. No micromanaging. Providing effective feedback. about that in Toastmasters, aren't we? Now, does that require brains, heart, or courage? What do you think?
Yes.
You got it again. When we think about feedback, by the way, please notice that I used the word feedback. I did not use the word criticism. Personal opinion? You guys have already figured out I do have an opinion or two about a thing or two. Personal opinion, the word criticism should be completely deleted from the English language. Why do you think I made that statement? Completely deleted from the English language. Not effective because it is negative. One of the most negative words out there. So if I were to say, Gary, I have no criticism of the job you do. What does he hear? Criticism. It's like, okay, wait, my brain is going to explode because she used the word criticism, but she said there was no criticism. It doesn't compute. Oh, and I really love this one. Gary, I have just a little constructive criticism for you. He just cringed in his seat right there and just turned bright red. Yeah. Are you really sorry you're sitting right up here in front, Gary? Just picking on you like crazy. Folks, do we recognize there is no such thing as constructive criticism? It does not exist. It is only criticism. And have you noticed that as soon as we say constructive criticism, we've just given ourselves permission to trash poor Gary because it's for your own good. Okay, I am never going to criticize or give constructive criticism. I am always giving feedback. So before I sit down with that person to give them feedback, I need to ask myself, okay, why am I doing this? Typically, there are 3 reasons. To punish the other person, to make them feel bad, or to resolve the issue and help them improve. Okay, it's that simple. There are 3 reasons why people give feedback. I am hoping you have figured out that there's only one good reason to give people feedback. Before you talk to anyone to give them the feedback, to give the recommendations for improvement, ask yourself first, okay, why am I doing this? What is my intent? And if there's anything negative behind it, then folks, keep your mouth shut, bottom line. On the other hand, it's your goal to help that person be more effective, go for it. We're going to be talking about how to make that a little bit more effective. Now, many of you in your Toastmasters club, when you teach effective evaluations, the sandwich method, yes? Or for the sugar fanatics, the Oreo cookie method, which for some of you is a little bit better. No sandwiches coming from Roberta, it's Oreo cookies, I know that for darn sure. Now, what do you notice about this, okay, hamburger? The elements of the sandwich method would be what? You guys know. I'm going to start with, okay, I'm going to put in the improvement, the meat, and then I'm going to finish with a summary which includes the stuff I like. Okay, so that's the simple sandwich method. But do you notice there's more than just meat and bread? There are other things that you can take into account that will help your feedback be more effective. So as officers, if you're, presidents and VPEs, where are you in the room? I know we've got a bunch of you. Yeah, so this pertains to everybody. It pertains to the workplace. The higher you are within any organization, including Toastmasters, the more important it is that you really know the skill to giving feedback, because there's a little bit more nuance to it than it is about, here's what I like, here's what you can do better. Let's do a little recap here. So here are some things, some of the condiments that we can add to that sandwich that will make it more effective. First point, give feedback when it can be heard. How many of you know people who make a mistake, and they know they made the mistake, and they are just beating themselves up? Worse than anything anybody could ever say. How many of you know people like that? Okay, I want to ask if you are people like that, but I'll bet we have at least a few of us in the room. We do tend to be our own worst critics. Okay, so here's that person who made the mistake and they are just like ripping their hair out, they're rending their shirts. Don't give feedback then, because they're not ready to hear it. All you're doing at that point is kicking that poor old dead horse. Don't refer to third parties. Roberta, you know, you're a decent club president. But I just don't understand why you can't be as good as Jordana. I don't understand why you can't be as good as Jordana. Now, what have I just done, folks? Is that thumbs up, Jordana? When I say you're better than Roberta, boy, I tell you, did you record that moment, by the way? So what did I just do in saying those words?
Backhanded compliment.
Well, yeah, that's pretty backhanded. Yeah, it sure was. And what happened to Roberta's relationship with Jordana? Yeah, I'm sorry, Jordana. But yeah, I'll talk nicely about you, and maybe I'll make up for it with Roberta afterwards, so maybe she'll like you again. Okay, don't refer to third parties. Bad idea. Okay, this is a biggie, guys. Control your emotions in advance. If you feel strongly about something, and you have, unless they're really positive emotions, go for it. But I think you realize that's not what I'm talking about. I am the quotation queen. One of my favorite quotes comes from American author Ambrose Bierce, who once said, "Speak when you are angry, and you will give the best speech you ever regret." It sounds like some of you can relate to that. We could spend maybe about 10 or 15 minutes talking about email in relation to that as well. I'm just going to caution you, if you're angry, don't send that email either. Establish the facts. Request behavior changes only. Folks, you have no right to ask anybody to change their attitudes, values, beliefs, or needs. The only thing you have the right to ask anybody to change is their behavior. Here's a bad supervisor. Gary, here it comes again. Gary, you have got a bad attitude and you're going to change it right now, buddy. Now, if I were to say that to Gary, yes or no, will he change his attitude? No. I completely disagree. It will get worse. I can make him have a worse attitude, but I cannot make him have a better attitude. And I don't even have the right to ask. All I can ask him to do is change behavior. Focus feedback on the future, not the past. We cannot change that which has already occurred, folks. Nor can Gary. Nor can anybody. Well, I don't know. Is there anybody who, in fact, can change the past? I'm just wondering. Oh, darn it, because I had a couple of things I really was hoping you'd be able to take care of for me. No, we cannot. So it's all about what they're going to do differently in the future. Determine minimum performance standards. Check for understanding. Okay. Creating accountability. Does that require brains, heart, or courage? Yes. Actually, the answer is brains. Oh, man, I got you, didn't I? Okay, these are some things that will help people be willing to take responsibility and be accountable for the job they do. First, do they know why the task needs to be done? How many of you have ever been given an assignment anywhere? Toastmasters in work, doesn't matter, and they say, here, I want you to do that. And you say, oh, okay, sure. I wonder why anybody wants me to do this. It seems like the dumbest thing on the face of the earth. But there you are doing it because you do not understand its importance, if at all. So folks, as good leaders, you will be sure to communicate to everybody on your team. Every task that is part of your assignment, every task that is part of the office or role that you took on, there's a reason for it. And it's important. Which takes us to the next one. They know how the task relates to the mission of the organization. How many of you belong to an organization that has a mission statement? Keep your hand up if you could recite the mission. I'm not going to ask you to, because I don't have that much time, but some of you could. Okay, excellent. So how does this relate to why Toastmasters exists as an organization or your company exists? Have objectives been developed? Has the leader gotten commitment from the employee or club officer after explaining the task? Does the leader touch base frequently? Is the leader available and approachable? Does the leader, well, this is a whopper, create a culture that recognizes success and rejects blame for failure through his or her leadership actions? Because folks, I'm here to tell you, nobody likes to feel as though they're being blamed for anything. How many of you have ever been the blue crayon? Come on, true confessions. And how many of you knew you were the red crayon when you were a kid? Yeah, for sure. Okay, last point, folks. Building and maintaining self-esteem. Would you agree with this statement? Your level of self-esteem has an impact on your ability to be an effective leader. Yes. And so, does that require brains, heart, or courage? Oh yeah, you're a little bit gun shy now, aren't you? You're pretty quick with that yes earlier on. Courage. It takes courage to recognize where you need to build your self-esteem. Would you guys believe that I work on my self-esteem every day of my life? I have to. Think of the job I have. Even if I knew everything there was to know about a subject, impossible. But if it were possible, and I did know everything there was to know about a subject, even then, how could I come across to you as being even marginally competent if I don't feel good about myself? We need to watch what we say to ourselves. How many of you are familiar with déjà vu? Déjà vu. And that's what we're doing to ourselves every single day, folks. I'm going to share with you the one thing, actually there are many things that I do that help me with my self-esteem. This is my favorite. Liked best, next time. It's very similar to evaluations. I evaluate myself every time I give any presentation. By the way, fill out evaluations. Somebody's going to be passing that out pretty soon. I'm thinking about it. Okay, so today, when I drive back down to Culver City, I'm going to be thinking about what happened in this room right now. And I'm going to ask myself two questions. First question, Laura, what did you like best about what happened today? And I'm going to identify two, maybe three things that worked really well. I'm not going to wallow in how great I am. Believe it or not, that is not me. But if I can identify two or three good, solid things that I like about myself, it's going to help me get better, and it's going to improve my self-esteem. Here's the follow-up question, and please notice how carefully I phrase this. Laura, what are you going to do differently next time to create an even better result? So now I am focused on two, maybe three things that I can do the next time I give this presentation, so they will have an opportunity to benefit from what happened today. Brains, heart, and courage. That's all it takes to be an effective leader, folks. You focus on the brains, you focus on the heart, you focus on the courage. You recognize that all I need is just a little bit more confidence, and guess where I'm going to wind up? The Emerald City of Success. Madam Toastmaster.
Welcome. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you for the opportunity.
On behalf of District 52, I'd like to present you with this plaque of appreciation for your keynote today and this gift. Thank you very much.
it's suitable for framing, but it's already framed. How cool is that? Thank you so much. And, oh, and she said that I did need to remind you that not only do I have my book here, but I will be available the rest of the day because there's the expo thing that you're going to find out more about. So thank you for that opportunity, and thank you really for the opportunity to be here with you today. It was my pleasure.
Like Laura said, she will be here right after for the next 10-15 minutes before you go to your next workshop. After that, we will move the expo tables to this side of the room, and she will be available. So on your way out, when you leave today, please stop in and check out the expo table, check out Laura's table, and talk to her, and get some one-on-one attention from her, because I know you all want one-on-one attention from her. Also, the feedback forms are in the back of the room. Unfortunately, we didn't pass them out, but they are there, so please give some feedback to Laura and to us about this presentation. We have 3 more hours of workshops. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and see you on the way out.
I need to see 2 people. If you please come see me, I need to see Arlene Herman and Rodney Johnson. Rodney Johnson, just need to get your signatures, and we also have more blank forms for those who are interested.
What are you doing next? I'm trying to go outside of Toastmasters. What the heck is ambassadors only?
But you are not an ambassador for the message.
I could, but they just sprout at me. So what do you think I need? Creativity? Yeah, but I don't have a psychologist that would take on that heavy of a
I'm going to try to see if I can find her. Don't get into all of the